Hello, BookTube. Welcome back to my 2024 library tour. In this episode, the penultimate history shelf. Um, so let's get going. First up is The Only Woman in the Room, Golda Meir and Her Path to Power by Penina Lahav. So this is a biography of one of Israel's most notable prime ministers, Golda Meir. I have not gotten around to reading it yet. Picked it up a few years ago from Princeton University Press. Next is another book that I have not read, The Pity of War, England and Germany, Bitter Friends, Beloved Foes by Miranda Seymour. So this is a study of the relationship between the British Empire and the German Empire from probably the late in the reign of Queen Victoria up through to probably sometime around World War One. Next is The Sleepwalkers, How Europe Went to War in 1914 by Christopher Clark. So this is a history of the lead up to World War One that looks at the causes of the war from all the angles. Um, Clark's argument very much is that the war was almost certainly inevitable, that the main belligerents were looking for a war, were looking for an excuse, because they all had territorial ambitions or desires for hegemony across the world. And so Clark doesn't necessarily put the entire onus of the war onto the Germans. It's rather more the Austro-Hungarian government as well as the French and, of course, the Serbs. So it's a fascinating book. It kind of loses some steam at the end, though, although, again, as I've mentioned several times, World War One is one of those subjects that I have a hard time with. Next is Revolutionary Spring: Europe Aflame and the Fight for a New World, 1848 to 1849, by Christopher Clark. So this is a history of the revolutions of 1848, when across several European states, France, Prussia, the other German states, Austria, there were revolts and revolutions that forced more liberal constitutions before the inevitable backlash. I dipped into this book last year and found it a little too dense for my taste. I just, how Clark opens the book, what he initially focuses on, just did not appeal to me. Returning to World War One, this is Paris, 1919, 6 months that changed the world, by Margaret Macmillan. So this is the story of the Treaty of Versailles and the end of World War One. I have not gotten around to it. Next is a royal biography. This is my second biography of Elizabeth I, this by Anne Somerset. I have not gotten around to reading this one yet either. Another book I have not read is The Silk Roads, A New History of the World by Peter Frankopan. So this is a history of, I think, mostly Central Asia, in that area. This is The Beauty and the Terror, the Italian Renaissance and the Rise of the West by Catherine Fletcher. It's been several years since I read this book, but it is really good. I quite enjoyed this book. This is Mary Tudor, Princess Bastard Queen by Anna Whitelock. Um, so this is a biography of Mary the First, and it is quite good. It's been a long time since I read it though, but I remember it quite fondly. Next is We Are Your Soldiers, How Gamal Abdel Nasser Remade the Arab World by Alex Rao. So this is a relatively new book, um, and it looks at how Gamal Abdel Nasser's revolution in Egypt, as well as his attempts to export that revolution to Syria, Iraq, and Jordan, as well as Egypt's participation in the long-running Yemen war, affected the Middle East, and how his legacy continues into the present. This is a really good read. I didn't love it, but it is good. Next are two histories of Germany and the 20s. First up is one I have not read, and that is Germany 1923 by Volker Ulrich. And this is translated by Jefferson Chase, so the same guy who translated the Hitler biographies. So this is the story of the pivotal events of Germany in 1923, when the German government saw off several putsches, both from the left and most famously from the right. This is the year of the Beer Hall Putsch. It also saw the German government dealing with hyperinflation and French invasion of the western parts of Germany. I have read the other book on the subject that I have, 1923, The Crisis of German Democracy in the Year of Hitler's Putsch by Mark William Jones. And this one is quite good. I rather enjoyed this one. Next is a work of Chinese imperial biography. This is Empress Dowager Cixi, the concubine who launched modern China by Zheng Cheng. So this is a biography of the Empress Cixi, who was a major force in Qing politics in the later 19th and I think even into the early 20th century, whose interference either, I guess, probably doomed the Qing rather than actually prolonged it. But I haven't gotten to this biography yet. Next is the basis of a musical. This is Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow, the inspiration for the globally famous musical Hamilton. I picked this up during a period when I wanted more, like, my goal for my history collection was to have as much as I could, to create as much as I could, a history of the world. And I, for some reason, wanted to add this to my collection, even though I have tried this book before years and years ago, and I didn't get on with it. I read the first few chapters and dropped it, and I haven't come back to it since. And finally, the last book on this shelf is The Dead Are Arising, The Life of Malcolm X by Les Payne and finished off by Tamara Payne. So this is a biography of Malcolm X. Um, it's I remember it being good, although I didn't love it. I think it would be more. It's good, but okay. Um, there are certain parts of the book that didn't quite sit well with me, and it's been a while since I've read it, so I don't quite know if it's the book itself or just not necessarily going into those aspects of Malcolm X's life. So that concludes this penultimate shelf of my history collection. I will be back tomorrow with the final um, shelf, and then we'll be almost done with my 2024 library tour. So until then, BookTube, thank you. Have a great, well, right now I'm filming this in the morning, so it would be have a great morning, and I will see you soon. So until then, thank you, BookTube, and stay safe.